when when we recorded our Avengers review with Brian, the sound quality difference because he had a mic was just like, I was like, oh my gosh, I had total mic envy. I'm like, I need to plunk down some money and actually get one of these because I'm actually going to be doing this podcast regularly. It seems like so.
Yeah.
As well.
Well, it did just give you a nice just USB one.
Yeah. That'll work. I was talking with Nick actually, and he's like, you don't want to get a USB one. You want to get like a little mini condenser that you can plug into a USB and then get just a regular XLR mic. And I'm like, whoa, that seems a little, I don't know, maybe that's what all the pros seem to be doing, but I'm like so far out of that. I don't know.
Well, yeah, it'd be nice to have an XLR mic, but I don't have that much money to drop down.
Yeah, I know. So
only $1,000, you know, they'll be fine.
One of these years, like there'll be like a mic sale at someplace, and if you ever see any on sale at work, let me know, and because usually I can scrounge up $50-$70 if there's something good.
But
yeah.
Generally speaking, you want USB because it gives you better sound quality than, just the one that goes in the headphone jack and the microphone jack. And my computer doesn't even have a microphone jack, so.
Well, there you go. Yeah, I got this little guy right here. These are decent earbuds, and this is a decent mic, but it's not like, it's not a real microphone. It's meant for people to do conference calls and things like that on. So yeah.
Well, I'm sure it's better than the one built into my computer. So
yeah, probably, and it's better than the one built into my computer. So, Mic Talk brought to you by the Shure Company, manufacturer of fine microphones.
All right.
All right. You want to get us started?
Yep. All right, everyone. Well, welcome back to a new episode of the Bored as Hell podcast. I'm Adam McDonald with Big Shiny Robot.
Hey, and I'm Andy Wilson, also with Big Shiny Robot. What was that big ding? I like that sound.
Oh, it's my roommate harassing me.
Yeah. Oh, well, I can see why he is harassing you, Adam.
Things. It is June, so it is LGBT Pride Month. And those of us up here in Utah just got back from spending the whole weekend at Pride downtown. So to kick things off with us, we kind of wanted to go and, obviously LGBT people like musicals, talk about some movies. So yeah.
And you buried the lead. Last night was the Tonys.
Tonys. There were a bunch of great stuff for that. Alison Bechdel, who many people are aware, invented the Bechdel test to see about, women in movies. She actually, her memoirs, Fun Home, pretty much won everything. So we'll get into that a little bit too. But musicals, Pitch Perfect 2. Now, I haven't had a chance to see this.
Well, that's okay, Adam. I think Pitch Perfect 2 is pretty easily summed up. Did you see Pitch Perfect?
Yes.
Did you like Pitch Perfect?
Yes.
Great. Did you see The Mighty Ducks 2?
Oh, who hasn't?
Okay, well, then you've seen Pitch Perfect 2.
So basically, it follows a pretty discernible pattern, you're saying.
Yeah, our wonderful Barden Bellas are back after winning 3 straight national championships. They go and perform at the Kennedy Center for Barack and Michelle Obama for the president's birthday. And after a very unfortunate wardrobe malfunction happening to Fat Amy, Rebel Wilson, they are going to be disbanded as an a cappella group unless they win the international championships.
And like 3 seasons.
Yeah, exactly. And so, it's a little bit predictable. And in order to do this, they have to take down the indomitable German international team, Das Sound Machine.
Das Sound Machine.
Oh, and they provide some of the best parts of this. And of course, the Bellas and Das Sound Machine end up showing up in several different situations where they face off against one another, including an impromptu underground a cappella league hosted by David Cross from Mr. Show and Arrested Development and so on.
Mhm.
Das Sound Machine is great. They're very, very German. They're very overproduced. They're very overpowering. And some of the best comedy comes from Anna Kendrick's character and her her feelings of interesting sexuality towards one of the female leads of Das Sound Machine.
Oh,
And a newcomer who most Americans will not be familiar with, a German comedian named Flula Borg, who is the male lead from Das Sound Machine, and they're great. Added to the Barton Bellas is Haley Steinfeld from True Grit. She was
just talking about her too.
Yeah, we were. And she is a legacy of the group. And her mother, Katie Seagal, who we may remember from Futurama, Married with Children, Sons of Anarchy, was a Bella back in her day and is telling her daughter how great it will be to be in an a cappella group. There's really not much more to it than that. Go in. If you like the first movie, you're going to love the second movie. There's just a lot more of it. And you'll enjoy yourself. I had a good time. 7.5 out of 10.
7.5. So I guess the one question I have, because I know that some people don't like Rebel Wilson. They think that she's trying too hard to be funny and that she can be annoying. Is this? I've heard that she's in this one a lot more than the first one. Is that true? Or was I just coming from someone who hates her and was given points away from the movie?
I don't know if she's in it a lot more. She gets her own subplot line where she's going after. Now I can't remember his name. He was in the Troublemakers in the first one, and he's on what's that Comedy Central show with the other miscreants? Adam Devine.
Okay.
Yeah. And anyway, Workaholics. That's what I was trying to.
Yeah.
So there's a whole storyline about the two of them hooking up. And if that seems annoying to you, then you will get annoyed by that storyline.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was kind of funny. It was, they're a mismatched couple, and I kind of like Rebel Wilson. I was one of those people who really liked Super Fun Night when it was on, and for like the 6-8 episodes it was on. I like Rebel Wilson. I like her comedy. I think she's funny, but so I was not annoyed. But people who might be annoyed by Rebel Wilson, I don't know why you'd be watching Pitch Perfect in the first place.
Well, it's for Anna Kendrick, of course.
Okay, well, I understand that, and there's a lot more Anna Kendrick, and she's great as always, and all the rest of the Bellas are back as well. So. I mean, everyone who was in the first movie is in the second one. The one thing that I actually really liked a lot more, I kind of had a complaint about the first one. I loved Elizabeth Banks and John Michael Higgins as they kind of bookended the movie at the beginning and the end of the first Pitch Perfect. Right. And I really wanted more of them. Now, Elizabeth Banks directed this one. And there was a lot more of the two of them and their incredibly politically incorrect commentary about the world of a cappella. I've
heard pretty much every time they're on screen, they're stealing the show. I mean, your eyes are on them. It's all about their humor, and I guess if you're the director, you have the freedom to do that for your character.
But they can get away with it because they're really funny, and I just love the two of them, and. I wanted more of them from the first one, and I got more of them in this one. So was very happy with that. If you have to kind of buy the premise, buy the bit though, and if you don't buy that they're going to inexplicably show up and steal the movie every 20, 30 minutes, then you're not going to buy that they're going to do that. But that I liked it. They're doing an a cappella podcast, which was funny, and that's
Oh,
why they show up to cover all of these things.
cool. Well, I mean, it's one that like I said, I wanted to see it, and I almost went and saw it today. But instead, I actually went and saw Spy, which is the next movie we're going to talk about. So Spy is written and directed by Paul Feig. As you may know, he has done Bridesmaids, The Heat, other stuff. He's in charge of the female Ghostbusters reboot, so obviously a very funny man. Worked a lot with Melissa McCarthy. So Spy takes place. Melissa McCarthy plays Susan Cooper, basically works for the CIA, works as kind of the voice in the ear of the spies out in the field. She's doing all the intel, telling them where to go, turn left, turn right, duck here. And her spy she's kind of running is played by Jude Law, and his name is Bradley Fine. And in the middle of the field one day, he gets killed. So she gets a bug in her ear to pretty much go out there and find his killer and solve this mystery about where this missing nuclear bomb is, and basically wackiness ensues. I didn't really know much about it going in. Of course, I've seen the trailers. They do a great job with kind of riffing off the James Bond thing. In fact, the opening song would be just at home in a James Bond movie with like the shadows and just the really cool choreography and action. But this thing is funny. I have not laughed at a movie that hard in a long time. Everyone who's in it is great. Melissa McCarthy is wonderful because she's not just there as they're not playing off her as like fat jokes. They're playing off her as a really great comedic actress who is out there running, jumping, flipping, punching bad guys. Absolutely hilarious. What do you think about it?
I loved it, and the thing that I kept coming back to was if Mad Max Fury Road had a subtext about feminism, this is a copy of Ms. Magazine dedicated to the world of spy films.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much in here about the sexism of Hollywood, of how things work in the CIA, because she's not sexy, because she's not exactly who you would think. She's working in the basement rather than out in the field, and the only reason she gets to go up is through a series of misadventures, and she's the only one who can accomplish this mission, which
Right.
makes a lot of sense. And she's completely qualified, and then they keep demeaning her with these terrible cover stories, and she keeps saying, no, why am I the Mary Kay salesman with 10 cats? Why can't I be the international businesswoman like Fine was? And that's the absolute truth. And so it's really great. And this works not as a spoof or send up of spy movies like, say, Austin Powers was. This is actually a spy movie that happens to have a lot of funny comedic elements.
Mm-hmm.
And the best part of this are all of the supporting characters. Yes, it's absolutely Melissa McCarthy's movie, and she carries this front to back. But all of the supporting players, Allison Janney as the deputy director of the CIA, Jason Statham as a competing field agent. Oh man, Jason Statham tries to steal the movie every time he shows up. He's just great. Bobby Cannavale is one of the bad guys, and Rose Byrne is an over the top bad guy who they put some of the worst, most awful, politically incorrect things coming out of her mouth, and you will laugh and laugh and laugh. And there's this great riffing that goes on between her and Melissa McCarthy as they insult one another about their clothes and their hair, and they are just mean, and it's really funny in the way that Paul Feig really knows how to deliver in these types of comedies.
Oh yeah, it's yeah. Oh god, the parts where Melissa McCarthy finally it's not too much a spoiler, kind of reveals part of herself, or makes up a cover story to kind of get in with her character. Rose Byrne's character's name is Raina in the movie. When Melissa McCarthy opens up and just rapid fire. You know it's got to be a lot of it improv or stuff they just worked up on the set, but it's vicious and you will laugh your ass off. Like I said, I have not laughed that hard at a movie in, oh gosh, since I can remember. It was a ton of fun. Don't want to forget about also kind of her coworker at the CIA who was played by Miranda Hart. She kind of comes along for the ride and is this lady, helping her out, and she's hilarious. 50 Cent has a cameo, and I'm not really a big 50 Cent fan, but he's funny. He's got some funny moments in this. Everyone is given something to do. There's no one, even if they're a small role, like Jude Law obviously is only really in it in the beginning. But even his parts are funny. When they go to dinner and he gives her this little necklace and she thinks it's a diamond ring or something because she's in love with him, and it's this horrible, nasty necklace. But even he's given funny moments. So my only complaint I have is like typical Paul Feig movies is that it's a little bit too long for me. You're definitely laughing the entire time and you're having a good time. But if it would have been about 20 minutes shorter, I think it would have been a little bit better. Trim some stuff off. Like you said, Jason Statham's hilarious. Like, the field agent trying to one up himself and talks about how he was drinking poison and he's immune to everything and blah blah blah. And a lot of those scenes could have been reduced maybe from 2 or 3 minutes, maybe to a 30-second or 60-second kind of soundbite. But I mean, aside from that, it's a lot of fun. Definitely don't take the kids. It uses R rating. There's a joke about Melissa McCarthy's neck getting wet, and that's all I'm going to say. But I easily give it an 8 out of 10. If it was just a little bit shorter, maybe some tighter editing, I think I'd probably go higher. But it's a fantastic movie. If you want something to laugh at, go check it out.
The joke about Melissa McCarthy's neck made me almost forget how much I love. I almost forgot to mention Peter Serafinowicz in this.
Oh, yes.
He's so great as this Italian secret agent who is helping her out. Serafinowicz, you might not recognize him, but he was the guy in Guardians of the Galaxy who was one of the Nova Corps, and he's the one who says, "Oh, what a bunch of a-holes."
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I totally didn't realize that.
And he's in the Look Around You series that was on the BBC with Nick Frost and Simon Pegg, and he was the voice of Darth Maul. But he's one of those character actors that you'll see him and you'll be like, oh yeah, that guy. Just every single little role in this movie, they did so much with so little, and it did end up overstuffed, but I still loved it.
Cool. So what are you giving it?
I'm probably at an 8 out of 10 on this one.
So we were pretty much, one day we actually are going to have to find a movie we disagree on, so we can go at it. But, yeah, definitely check it out. It's a lot of fun. So
we really do need to find a movie we're going to disagree on. I hope we find one soon.
Yeah. Well, I mean, who knows? I mean, like I was saying, maybe one of us will absolutely hate Jurassic Park or Jurassic World, and that person will be wrong. So.
Yep.
So, Andy, what else did you see? Because, again, I was just busy with work, and I was able to sneak Spy in. Could you give us a quick rundown just on some of the other ones that came out this week? I know Entourage was there.
That is about the quickest summary of Entourage that I could come up with. I'm going to start with my rating. This is a 3 out of 10. If you really love this show, if you need to go see an Entourage movie, I guess you can. But there's just not enough TNA in the world to make this really that interesting to me. There's not enough celebrity cameos to make this interesting for me. Mm-hmm. And what kind of worked for a season or two on HBO back in the early 2000s really does not work 15 years later. And I think they understand that. So it's, I don't know why you need to go see Entourage. The best review I can think of with this is a line from Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt where Titus Andromedon proudly says to the other people in the bar, "There is no Entourage 2. There is no Entourage 2.
See, I watched. I didn't watch the whole show. I did see the first couple seasons. And the first seasons, they were fun. It was kind of this rising star, and then it just kind of turned into, I don't know. I lost interest when everyone got douchier and douchier, and it's kind of one of those things where, do we need an Entourage movie? I mean, I know that the series ended pretty, they kind of ended it and hooray, everything's done, but I don't think there was really a clamor for it. I mean, I know we definitely don't sell the box set at work very often.
The only thing that I can't understand about this movie is that Adrian Grenier and Jeremy Piven and the other actors in this movie, they all have to have some sort of Faustian bargain, because they all look better now than they did when the show first started. I can't figure it out.
Doesn't the movie take place something like 4 days after the series ended or something?
Something like that.
The actor who plays Turtle, and I can't remember his name, he lost a lot of weight, and they make mention of it in the trailers I've seen. And it's it's supposed to take place really shortly after it. He's on some kind of crazy diet or something? So
no, I think it's taken place longer than that, because Turtle's got a side business where he's selling a craft tequila, and he's actually making more money than Vince at this point. And so, I mean, but they've got the crew together to make this movie. And this movie was short on plot and heavy on TNA and celebrity cameos. And that's really all that.
Which is where the series, when it kind of got into that, derailed. And So Entourage, 3 out of 10. If you love the show, I guess you'll have fun with it, but that's pretty much it.
My big recommendation for the week, though, and it's good that we're talking about musicals this week, is a movie called Love and Mercy, which is a song by Brian Wilson off of his 2004 album Smile, which won a bunch of Grammys and was Brian Wilson's return to music after an incredibly long hiatus. And this movie takes place in 2 different time periods in the life of Brian Wilson. In 1967, during the height of the Beach Boys fame, where if you know anything about the Beach Boys and love the Beach Boys music, this is largely to do with the recording of Pet Sounds.
Pet Sounds, right, yeah.
Which is just an amazing album, and changed music for good forever. And without Pet Sounds, there would have been no Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. There probably would have been modern music would not have been what it would have been without this.
One of the defining albums that changed music forever, pretty much.
Yeah, but we see young Brian Wilson, played by Paul Dano in this case, dealing with a lot of mental health issues. He's getting more and more depressed, and he's having auditory hallucinations. But these things that he's hearing in his head are driving his music, and that is what is taking him to these places. And it's a very interesting journey as that goes down. Parallel to this, in the 1980s, we see John Cusack playing an older Brian Wilson, where he is being dominated and over-medicated by Dr. Eugene Landry, who's played here by Paul Giamatti. And basically, he's taking advantage of Wilson. He's living in his house. He's taking all of his money. It's a very abusive relationship, and this parallels well with the very abusive relationship that Brian Wilson and the other Wilson brothers had with their own father in the 60s. And in comes Elizabeth Banks. Oh, I got a double dose of Elizabeth Banks this week.
There you go.
Who was a saleswoman at a Cadillac dealership, doesn't know who Brian Wilson is when she first meets him, and they kind of start a relationship. And throughout this, she gets drawn into seeing how bad things are for him, and is determined to try and help him get out. So this is all based on true events. from my reading of history and what I know of Brian Wilson, it seems very true to the source material.
Mhm.
And if you like musical biopics, Ray, Walk the Line, this is very much in that same thread, but you have the element of these two interweaving storylines, which makes it very interesting. And rather than trying to tell the whole Brian Wilson story, it's like they're trying to tell two year-long chunks interwoven with one another, and it makes for a really interesting movie. And as someone who really loves pet sounds, I really enjoyed this. Dano and Cusack are both very interesting. They approach the character very differently, and it's good that they didn't try to get actors who really looked a ton like Brian Wilson or looked a lot like one another. And in that sense, it's a lot like the Bob Dylan "I'm Not There" movie that came out a few years ago, where they just kind of let people go, and you go with it. And so I felt it was really successful. I really liked it. 9 out of 10.
Oh wow, yeah, it's everything I've seen for it. It looks amazing. It's been on my list of things to see, so that's definitely a recommendation I will take to heart and hopefully be able to see shortly.
Yeah, if you don't get to see it in theaters, it's in a very limited release. Definitely make sure you check this out when it ends up on video. I probably won't stick around in theaters very long because I think it's got limited appeal. But if it's playing at a local independent cinema, for instance, it's playing at the Broadway in Salt Lake, go check that out. Here in Austin, they've got it at a couple of the Alamo Draft Houses and at the AMC Barton Creek 14. But that's it. So if you're lucky enough to have it playing near you and you love Brian Wilson, go check it out. Otherwise, make sure you check it out when it comes around on video.
Awesome. Well, again, overall, a ton of good movies this week. I think we can pretty much say that the one stinker with Entourage, everything else was pretty was worth seeing. And of course, everything's clean and horror from Jurassic World, which we will be seeing this week and talking about. So hopefully that will be as good as it looks. I mean, it looks amazing. The trailers have me excited. So hopefully that will live up to its promise. So before we go, though, we did want to talk about some recommendations. And what I mentioned earlier is that it is Pride Month. Excuse me. So the one movie I really liked that I saw a couple years ago was called Weekend. There's a couple. It's obviously a couple movies named Weekend, but it was back in 2011. It was written and directed by Andrew Hay, or Hay, I'm not sure. If you're familiar with HBO, he had a series on there for 2 seasons called Looking that some people liked. I didn't like it too much. I tried to get into a couple episodes. It kind of just felt like Queer as Folk for hipsters. Yeah, it definitely wasn't my thing. But this movie is fantastic because, so it almost was like LGBT cinema had grown up. So much I've seen in the past is just it's kind of pandering. Not that there's anything wrong with camp or that kind of stuff, but I don't know how you feel, but like with LDS movies for a while there, like you had like the Singles Ward and you had Home Teacher or whatever it was, and every single one was like, well, if we say this is LDS and throw it out there, they'll buy it because there's nothing there. And that's kind of how LGBT cinema had been for a while, where there were some cool little indie hits, but most of it was, Tu Wong Fu, which again, fun movie, but it's not, going to make a difference or change cinema. But Weekend definitely does. Without going too much into the plot, basically, it's about two guys who meet up, have a one-night stand, and hang out for the weekend. 2 British guys, one played by Tom Cullen, the other Chris New. 2 actors you probably have no idea who they are. Pretty much the only thing they've ever done was this movie at that point in time. But what's really cool, it's a very, very honest story. I mean, there's not always this, huge. There's not a huge happy ending. Basically both people kind of go about their lives at the end of it. But it just shows how one decision or one person you bump into can make that big of a difference in your life and set you on a new course. So it's highly recommended. Not only is it is out on DVD and Blu-ray, it's the only movie I know of that for its initial release got a Criterion. Criterion saw it and said, "Hey, we're taking this, we're running with it." Fantastic movie. It is rated R, obviously, for the subject matter, language that doesn't really bother British people, but might bother some people here. But if you want a fantastic movie that makes you think and you're not afraid of two dudes kissing, then Weekend's going to be the one to go see. And it was on Netflix. It might still be there, but it's been kind of making the rounds.
That's great. I'll have to check that out. I was racking my brain about what I wanted to recommend here, and the the easy answer is something like The Birdcage, which is a classic.
Oh, you can't go wrong with that. Madonna.
Yeah.
Madonna.
Yeah. And but I'm like, nah, I think that's a little bit too on the nose. But yeah, if you've never seen The Birdcage, check that out, or go check out some John Waters movies. But what really stuck out in my mind was a documentary that I saw 2 years ago at South by Southwest. It also played at Sundance, called The Case Against State.
Yes.
And this is the true story, a documentary of the legal case brought by plaintiffs in California against Proposition 8 that led to it being overturned in the Supreme Court. And what was so amazing to me about this film was the real beauty of these personal stories of these two gay couples who are very, very different and have very different backstories, and how the case affects them as they're going through. I'm also a huge political and history junkie. Mm-hmm. And I kind of came of age, as it were, politically in the year 2000 with the Florida recount and that huge mess. And at that time, the lawyers for the Bush camp and the lawyers for the Gore camp were David Boies and now I'm forgetting the Republican guy's name. And he's absolutely great. Oh, hang on a second. And I'm totally going to have to edit this out because I'm going to look stupid.
Theodore Olson. David Boies.
Yeah. Yeah, so the two lawyers on the opposing side, on the Gore side, you had David Boies, and on the Bush side, you had Ted Olson. And Ted Olson, lifelong Republican, very conservative, but he makes a very strong case in this film, a conservative defense of why the state should allow for marriage equality. Mm-hmm. And why there should not be discrimination. And it's great to see Boies and Olson working together. And really, it's more Olson leading this charge, which is really great to see. And so you really catch on to this. And for me, it was a story of how I really need to put down the partisan gloves and be okay and allow people to change and people to be on my side, even if we're not on the same side on every issue. Because I'm sure if you put me and Ted Olson in a room, we wouldn't agree on almost anything else. But marriage equality, we can definitely go forward on. And there was a lot of hate against the Human Rights Campaign and them giving money to Olson and his legal defense, and they go into that. I just thought this was incredibly interesting, and for them to catch from the very beginning of the case to the very end of what happened at the Supreme Court was absolutely huge. And we're going to have another major decision sometime in the next several months, again, on marriage equality from the Supreme Court. So this is a good primer to look back on some of the legal history, and also just a great story. It's rare that a documentary is able to catch a story that is better than fiction, but in this case, I think they really did it.
Yeah, I love documentaries. I'm a huge fan. I try to catch as many as I can when I go to Sundance. And what I loved about Case Against 8 was that documentaries can very oftentimes have an agenda and can be pushing a bias. And they really tried to be as honest as possible and just let the story be told. And you don't see that very often. So it was really refreshing to have just, hey, this is what happened. There's interviews with the lawyers, with the clients, with everyone else. And just had this amazing story. Unlike, I don't know if you've ever seen 8, The Mormon Proposition.
Oh, yeah.
See, that one I don't like because it comes across as propaganda. There was an obvious agenda there. They're trying to make the people who are against marriage equality or people who voted for Prop 8 look like bad people. And like you said, just because we may disagree with someone doesn't immediately make them a bad person. Just because you have different religious beliefs or even whatever, it doesn't mean you're a horrible person. So definitely go check out Case Against 8. It's a fantastic documentary, and I'm really glad you brought that up because that's one of my favorites. I actually will probably go rewatch tonight. So
yeah, it's on HBO right now. So if you have access to HBO Go, you can watch that. They picked that up, so go check that out. And I think that's the only place where you can get it right now. So borrow a friend's HBO Go password like I do from Adam.
Actually, no, the president of HBO said that's fine. I do believe it's out on Blu-ray and DVD. I'm not 100% sure, but I know it's been out for a while. The really cool thing about HBO is they pretty much go to Sundance every year and they just buy all the documentaries. So if anything was out at Sundance, like we have Going Clear, the Scientology documentary, they'll be available on HBO. So if you love your documentaries, pick up HBO or HBO Now, and you will definitely have a lot to watch. So.
And while you're on there, if you want to check out Angels in America or what was the one last year with Ruffalo and
Normal Heart.
Normal Heart. Oh, just there's so much on there. You can have there's a ton to watch on HBO with.
Yeah, if you Angels in America, it's a 6-hour miniseries based on 2 plays, and it's absolutely fantastic. If you want to see Meryl Streep acting her ass off, one of her roles includes an old Jewish rabbi, a male Jewish rabbi. It's fantastic. It's one of the best things you'll ever see. And even though it was written back in the early 90s and the miniseries was from the early 2000s, it held up well. It's not dated. I mean, obviously the story takes place in 1980s New York where AIDS is kind of running rampant, but the story and the themes and the characters still resonate just as well today as they did from 30 years ago.
And the story of Roy Cohn and dealing with AIDS and Pacino in that, just every single person in that, it just did amazingly. And
it'll remind you why Al Pacino used to be such a great actor.
He still can be. There was a movie I saw earlier this year where he did a great job, Danny Collins. But yes, Pacino often forgets how to act.
Or he just needs a paycheck. So
yes.
All right, well, that's going to wrap it up for this week's edition of the Bored as Hell podcast. Be sure to come back in a couple days because we will both have seen Jurassic World, and we'll be weighing in possibly with a few guests on here who want to talk about Jurassic World as well. So,
yes.
All right. I don't know how to end this.
Okay, so we should come up with some sort of
sign
off or something.
Shit. We'll have something for next time because I can't think of anything. My mind's completely blank on that.
Okay, kids, here's your clever sign off. We'll see you next week. All right.